what's your next one you're excited about?
It's a busy week. So tomorrow is Brain Dead, and then I think Thursday is the Vista, and then Friday is the New Bev, and Saturday is the New Bev. So, and then Sunday is the Egyptian. So that's my schedule for this week.
And is that a normal week for you?
But yeah, I do come to these things pretty often.
Welcome to MovieTown, the Los Angeles Revival Cinema Scene show. We are here at the American Cinematheque inside the Los Feliz 3. And this month I'm joined by Jim Branscome, programmer of Cinematic Void here at the American Cinematheque. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure to be here.
How long have you been programming Cinematic Void?
Since 2016, so I'm deep into year 9 right now.
Year 9, okay. Were you programming around LA or doing stuff before that?
No, I had a completely different career trajectory, never thought about doing this. It just kind of thing that just happened.
What is kind of the conceit behind like Cinematic Void? You know, what does the series encompass?
It started out, well, it still is. It's like, you know, shining a light on more cult films and stuff like that. And there was a period where, you know, ended up doing a lot of horror movies because horror movies were very popular and still very popular. But like the amount of kind of films that I show now, I show a lot of art house, I show a lot of action movies, I still show horror movies, but it's more expanded. But like the main consensus is like I call it a cult film odyssey into the mouth of Cinemadness kind of thing. Okay,
cool. And so for April, for this month, like is there a unifying theme to these films?
So the theme for April is something called The System Works for Them, which is kind of a political theme. And I start with like, you know, Dr. Strangelove, Land of the Dead, and Tin Drum, and they all cover politics, but in a very, very different way in different sectors of the world.
I've been going to Cinematic Void screenings since, I guess, like 2021, sort of when they restarted after the pandemic. Really just eclectic picks. It's always, you know, they have like a pre-show, and sometimes we'll do like a fun little skit beforehand, so it's just a really great, comprehensive experience.
How are we doing tonight, Los Feliz 3? And welcome to Cinematic Void. I'm your host, Jim Branscome, and tonight we are watching Herschel Gordon Lewis's Something Weird.
You know, let's start with Dr. Strangelove. You know, 1964, Kubrick. He's coming off Lolita. This is before 2001. What jumped out to, you know, kind of program something that you wouldn't necessarily consider cult, certainly, but how it fits in this month?
Strangelove is actually one of my all-time favorite movies, and I thought, you know, in a political sense, because it's a movie that took place, well, it was a book that became a very big, broad comedy that took place during the Cold War. And I think right now, when you look at the climate of American Russia and kind of how vastly different but sort of the same things are parallels, I think Strangelove is a movie that just unfortunately remains timeless for a lot of reasons that it shouldn't, but still does. So I think the political context, I also think it's a cult movie because a lot of people, when they think Kubrick now, people get stuck on like 2001. There's a lot of like love for Eyes Wide Shut, obviously Clockwork Orange, and you know The Shining. And I feel like some of the pre-2001 stuff is kind of like maybe, I don't want to say lost in the ether. Strangelove's always a classic, but like just kind of giving it a different context. Because most of the time when people play Strangelove, this is a classic movie. I'm kind of taking it back to more of its like weirdly just anarchist like ideals of like, hey, nuclear war can be funny even though it's scary.
Have you seen Dr. Strangelove ever with a crowd?
I have a long time ago. So I haven't played this movie. It's been a while since I've seen it because one of my Cinematic Void rules, like there are exceptions, I don't repeat movies. So I think, I have to look at the letterbox, but I think I'm over 400 some different movies I've played. So eventually I'm gonna have to play some like things that might be a little bigger than the scope, but I think if I can put it together in the scope of the bigger picture, I think it just makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I am interested to see it with a crowd because I've only seen it alone, and I do think I bet, especially you know, just time like with Russia, U.S. stuff kind of back in the fore, that the jokes will really kind of snowball, I think, a lot.
As funny and as ridiculous it is, it's played completely straight, even though there's several people, you know, much to some of the actors' chagrin for what Kubrick kind of, George C. Scott was kind of unhappy that like every take he used was the one. It's like, just do one that's a little more crazier. So that's everything he used for George C. Scott. But you got Sterling Hayden, who's like terrifying, but completely is in on the joke, but doesn't play like he's in on the joke with the purity essence and that kind of stuff. And then you have the trio of Peter Sellers, and of course you got Slim Pickens just doing the all-timer there.
Yeah, and did you know Peter Sellers was actually supposed to play the Slim Pickens role? And then he was worried about that one with the Texas accent, and then he ended up...
He faked the injury to get out of it.
Yeah. Do you get out to a lot of the other revival theaters? Like which one?
New Bev pretty frequently. The Vista's pretty close to me as well. If somebody just told me about something going on at Brain Dead on Friday, go check out some Argento over there, maybe, I'll see anything, old film, new film, whatever.
Jump into the next film, Land of the Dead. This is an interesting one because, you think about those first three Romero zombie, of the Dead series. So what went into, kind of revisiting this one?
I just feel like it's unfortunately aged very well in our political climate. Now, when Land of the Dead came out, we were in the Bush administration, coming out of 9/11 and going to Iraq and looking for weapons of mass destruction. And as much as it became a movie based around that era, I think the way the country and, politics have changed, it's kind of like it's kind of more modern now, because if you think about it, dealing with a lot of class war on two fronts. You have the zombies, and then you have all the poor people that are like stuck outside, and you have all the rich people in this nice tower where, and then kind of throwing pittance to like, here, go do our dirty work, and maybe you'll get into the tower. It's like the bullshit idea of trickle-down economics just in the zombie apocalypse kind of thing.
So Land of the Dead 2005, it's 20 years after Day of the Dead. Have you ever read anything about like why Romero wanted to pick it back up? Was it just kind of
I think with George hit a period of his time like when he was trying to get in the studio system and had done some studio movies, and he was like tied with a bunch of things. He was tied to The Mummy for a while at Universal, where he was getting paid but no movie was being made. And then he kind of got out and he did Bruiser, and I think there's maybe a few other things. But like, I think because the Dawn of the Dead remake was coming out, it kind of gave him, it's like, here's a remake of one of the greatest zombie movies ever made. Why not a new zombie film from the guy that made one of the greatest zombie movies ever made? It came a little bit bigger movie because he had like name stars. There's John Leguizamo, there's Dennis Hopper in it, there's Simon Baker, there's Asia Argento. Like, he had some names, and K&B, who went on to do all the effects for like The Walking Dead and stuff like that, did the zombie effects, and Greg Nicotero was like, a student of Tom Savini who did the Dawn and, Day of the Dead effects. So it was kind of his chance to do kind of a bigger thing. And I think at the time, maybe that Day of the Dead remake stole a lot of its thunder, but I think in the way things have aged, and I think it's going to play very differently than it did in 2005.
Yeah. Do you have like a favorite screening you've been to in LA?
I really like the marathon horror movie screenings because everybody there is just in it to win it. It's like 4-6 movies in a row, and you're just sort of mind is mush at the end of it, and it's just good. And like everybody who goes there is like looking for the same sort of mindless thrill. The
final April film in this series, the Tin Drum from 1979, and certainly kind of an acclaimed film of its time. I'm wondering like how you saw that fitting in. And
I mean, it's a movie that takes place during Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And I also just wanted to show Tin Drum because I genuinely love it. I think it's an incredible movie. I haven't seen it played anywhere. I've never seen it in a theater, so I was like, might as well just give it a try, because like it's very interesting in like how it looks at like the occupation, or like how Germany basically was falling under Nazi power. Well, you have this little kid who falls down a set of stairs who's like, I'm not going to grow up anymore. And I can also scream and break glass and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's the eccentricities of it that certainly have stuck with me. The like birth scene, you're like coming out the birth canal, and then he's like a toddler when he comes out. He's essentially the same actor.
It's just, it kind of plays like, as much as it's an art house movie, it also plays a lot like an exploitation movie, because there's what some people might view as problematic elements, especially because he's not growing up and he remains the same size, same age. And it's just a weird, it's a dark comedy in like the best sense of the world. I really enjoy it. I don't know if everyone else is. It is also a long movie, but there's enough weird things in it, and it also has Mario Adolf in it, who's a longtime German character actor who's in a ton of like giallo films and like Eurocrime stuff, and he just pops up in everything. So that's kind of the lineage. It's like a thing I firmly believe, especially in that time period of the 70s, there's a fine line between what people consider art house and grindhouse. I think it's almost non-existent. It's just how you perceive it, how it's marketing. I mean, at the time when the movie was released theatrically, New World Pictures, which was Roger Corman's company, released it in the States.
What's the best thing you've seen recently?
Cinematheque is doing a Noir City Hollywood. They just played one the other night called Roadhouse, which I'd never seen before. Ida Lupino, it was nitrate film. It looked fantastic. Whole big event. It was great. Yeah.
I wonder, now that you've been doing this for 9 years, I feel like the last couple of years we've seen a few new theaters open, micro cinemas. Like, what have you seen kind of change in the LA revival scene?
I think overall is like how popular repertory is in general, and it's not just in LA; it's across the country. Because I'm friends with programmers like all over, like most of the major cities. And post-pandemic, when you could go back to movie theaters, people got really excited about seeing older movies on the big screen. And I think a lot of it has to do with what happened with streaming and curation, because you're very limited in what you can see streaming-wise. You're at the algorithm based on whatever particular streamer or what they decide to license for like a 3 to 6 month period that you can watch on a streamer. So when you start seeing movies that most streamers don't worry about or think about, and you can go see on the big screen, you could sometimes see it on 35 millimeter, you might be able to see it with a guest, like it's a different experience. So a lot of the stuff I show, maybe 85 to 90% of the audience have not seen the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about things that I feel like, oh, everyone's seen it at this point. I just thought I'm just catering to like the more hardcore fans or whatever. Like I guarantee you when I do Strangelove coming up in April, most of that audience has not seen that movie.
Yeah, it is partly it gets them. I was like, oh, I need to go see that. Like I know the title and they haven't seen it. I know I do that for when I look at the calendar.
Yeah, it's actually like an interesting thing now, because also like the cinephile is getting younger.
Yeah.
Where I think pre-pandemic, a lot of cinephiles were like in a certain age bracket and is very limited. And now I think people are just more adventurous about going to see movies in a movie theater.
What gets you to like come out and see something in the theater versus, streaming or renting, disc, whatever?
I definitely think about the rarity of the format of which it'll be screening at as well. Like the Video Archives Micro Cinema at the Vista, I love to see something on 16 millimeter there. That's always enticing, I would say.
Okay, so a big format person.
Yeah.
Okay, this I want to do now. Want to do a little bit more of a speed round.
Okay.
And so for this, I've got like 2 or 3 movies that kind of relate, and I want to see if one jumps out to you as, oh yeah, go see that one, or no, maybe skip those.
Yeah.
So this is at Vidiots this April. 2 movies from 2014. So it's not, it's kind of recent enough, but they're showing Wild Tales, the Argentinian. It's 6 short films, sort of crazy, a bit unhinged. It was actually nominated for Best Foreign Film Oscar that year. And then the other one is Inherent Vice, the Paul Thomas Anderson adaptation of the Pynchon novel that, so I'm interested whether either of those strike you as like ones you would want to go see or recommend.
I've seen Inherent Vice. I haven't seen the other one.
Oh, okay.
But I would say go see the other one because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing. It's like Inherent Vice, like no disrespect to Paul Thomas Anderson, but like it plays a lot around town. So I think the thing is more exciting when you take chances on things. A lot of people haven't seen it.
Yeah,
so.
no, I feel like it's gotten lost a little bit in like, is it really easy like win recommendation? Like this is a really fun movie that I don't think would disappoint many people who go to like repertory revival stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the balance when you do repertory anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you can play the hits, but you got to be careful not to play nothing but hits.
This is an interesting, I haven't been out to one of these, but I really want to get to, because there's a few places that do this, is like a silent movie with live accompaniment. And so the first one is at the Gardena Cinema, which is a theater I haven't been out to yet. Both of these are theaters, like revival theaters I haven't been out to yet. And this is the Golem, a German silent film based on Jewish folklore. The Golem is this kind of mythic, almost superhero, like made out of clay that comes to life. And so they're showing that on April 11th. And then the other one is kind of I think of as probably more known, is the Hitchcock film The Lodger. And this just shows at the Old Town Music Hall, which has this like giant organ.
Yeah, they have a live organist that plays along. I mean, you know, for me, I kind of would like to see The Lodger with the live organist, but like part of me, because Gardena Cinema is like family run, like it's a big, if you get a chance to go there, definitely go there. It's a big, like I think it's a 700-seat theater.
Oh, wow,
it's like an old movie house.
Yeah.
And like, you know, they're doing their best to keep it running. So like, I think just because of like support and keeping something, you know, keeping that theater alive, go see the Golem there.
Yeah. And then this is another venue. Have you heard of this new venue in Hollywood, the Eastwood?
I've seen it pop up. I don't really know much about it as of right now.
Yeah, I think they're known as doing like stage productions, but they're also showing movies a few times a week now. And so these are 3 of their April screenings. So you have The Toxic Avenger from 1984, Trey Parker's Cannibal the Musical, and Argento's Tenebrae from 82. Have you seen all of those?
I've seen all 3 of them. Like, personal bias, I think Tenebrae is one of the best, like, it's one of the best Argento movies.
Okay.
It's one of the best, like, you know, giallo films, even though it's more of the kind of meadow giallo. Like, you know, it's kind of hard because it's like, I'm also not the biggest Troma stan.
Yeah.
Like, I have a soft spot for the first Toxic Avenger. I think Cannibal Musical was a great way to see how, like, Trey Parker and Matt Stone kind of eventually became the guys that made South Park. And it's a really ambitious, like, DIY musical.
Right. And just that they've had this musical like interest and yearning from like the beginning, you know.
And just kept on doing it. Like, I mean, just for personal bias, I'm gonna go Tenebrae.
Okay. Okay, and here's two double features at the New Bev, and both of these caught my eye. So the first one is 2 films from 1985, both with Rosanna Arquette. The first is Scorsese's After Hours, and then the second is Susan Seidelman's Desperately Seeking Susan with Madonna as the co-star. And then the other one is an early Spielberg double feature, Duel and Sugarland Express, both like very, you know, Duel obviously fully road movie, and Sugarland Express a lot is on the road.
So that's a tough one because that's a good early Spielberg double feature. Like, you know, Duel being started as a TV movie, but, you know, they have a theatrical cut. Sugarland Express, greatly underrated, underseen in a lot of ways. But then, like, you know, After Hours is my favorite Scorsese movie. And, you know,
I do like that pairing of After Hours and Desperately Seeking Susan.
No, I think it's a great.
Really
I think
fun.
they're both solid double features, which is what you kind of want out of a double feature. It's kind of like there's a couple ways you can do double feature. You can do true A picture, B picture, or you can do a thematic one. And both of these are thematic.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's a tough call for that one. You know, go see Sugarland Express. Like, After Hours plays a lot around town anyway. Go see Sugarland on 35 at the New Bev.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thanks so much for joining us. Look forward to your screening of Something Weird here tonight that we get to hang around for. And,
Excellent.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, man. Absolute pleasure.
What movie are you here to see?
Actually, funny enough, I am here to see Something Weird, and then at 10 p.m. they are playing this other movie called If later tonight. So doing a double feature tonight.
Impressive, an American Cinematheque double feature of your own making.
Yes.